I've personally lab tested more than 20 reverse osmosis systems over the last few years. And out of all of them, 4 under sink systems have earned the highest scores in my data-driven scoring system as of May 2026 at the time of recording. These rankings aren't based on personal opinion, they're based on real data, my TAP score lab tests, and official performance certifications. Now, real quick, this video is focused on under sink reverse osmosis systems, both conventional tank-based and tankless designs. If you rent, can't do an invasive install, or just don't want to drill into your sink, I've got a separate video on the best countertop reverse osmosis systems linked in the description, which you'll want to check out instead. Otherwise, stick with me and I'll show you the best reverse osmosis systems that made the list, why they made it, and what those scores actually mean, so you can pick the right RO system for your water and your situation. Because I test products at different times, the tap water I start with is not identical day to day. Chlorine, disinfection byproducts, fluoride, and even minerals can fluctuate within a water system throughout the day. To make fair apples to apples comparisons, I score products using a proprietary weighted scoring model that relies on hard data. Contaminant reduction is of course the most important category and is weighted at 55% of the overall score. Design, filtration rate, setup, and maintenance make up 10% each, and company policies the last 5%. Aesthetic factors like taste are too subjective. For example, demineralized, slightly acidic water can taste bad for some folks, but not for others. I don't score taste. I score measurable performance, verifiable certifications, speed, cost, and build quality. Now, one thing I really want to mention here is that over the last few months, I've been gathering a lot of new data points specifically for under sink RO systems. Data that goes way beyond what my scoring system currently captures. For every under sink RO I've tested over the last few months, I've measured things like flow rate at 12 ounces, 32 ounces, and 1 gallon draws using frame-by-frame video analysis to get exact timing, recovery rate, and efficiency ratio at both small and large draws, so we can see how performance changes as the system stabilizes. TDS rejection percentage compared to the feed water, TDS creep, which I measure by letting the system sit idle overnight, then comparing the first draw to the second draw to see how much TDS spikes after stagnation. Booster pump efficiency, where I bumped feed pressure up to around 80 psi to see how much performance improves. Noise levels at 1 foot and 3 feet using a calibrated sound meter. Energy usage in kilowatt hours per gallon for systems with internal pumps. And install time, leak points, and the volume and time required for the initial break-in flush. Now, to be clear, this RO-specific data is not yet part of my scoring system. The scores I'll be giving you in this video still come from my standardized scoring criteria that applies across all water filter categories. But I wanted to mention it because a lot of these data points are RO specific. Things like TDS creep, recovery rate, or booster pump efficiency simply don't apply to water filter pitchers or carbon filters. I plan to incorporate all this into my scoring system when I update it in the future. But I'm still going to talk about all that data here today because a lot of it really matters when you're choosing an RO system. So with that said, let's get into the top 4 under sink reverse osmosis systems and how each one scored. And as always, if you want to see all the data in even more detail, make sure to check out my dedicated reviews, which I'll link up in the description. Starting at the top of the list with Cloud RO, which earned an overall score of 9.25. This is currently the highest scoring under sink reverse osmosis system I've tested, and honestly, the only conventional tank-based system I've reviewed that I think genuinely competes with the best countertop ROs in terms of overall design and quality. Cloud takes a fresh approach to the traditional, inefficient under sink tank-based design. It has a small footprint, a built-in battery pack so you don't need to plug it into a power outlet, an app that tracks your water usage, filter life, and TDS in real time, and a big one, built-in remineralization that's included with the base model, not an upgrade or add-on. And by the way, I'll link to all the products I discussed throughout the video for you guys down in the description, along with any discounts these brands are currently offering, so make sure to go check them out. Cloud got a 9.42 in the contaminant reduction category. I've actually now tested Cloud RO twice at 2 different locations, so we now have 2 different data sets to work with for this one. The first test was on a relatively clean municipal water source with a baseline TDS of just 76 ppm, and the second test was on a much more contaminated water source with a baseline TDS of 707 ppm, almost 10 times the dissolved solids. In the first test, the contaminants detected above the health guideline level were 2 disinfection byproducts and aluminum. Cloud eliminated all of them. It also greatly reduced everything else detected in the baseline: barium, copper, fluoride, manganese, molybdenum, strontium, and sulfate. Total TDS was reduced by nearly 82%. In the second test, 5 contaminants were detected above the health guideline level. 3 disinfection byproducts, along with fluoride and uranium. Cloud eliminated every single one of them. It also greatly reduced everything else detected in the baseline: barium, chromium, copper, manganese, molybdenum, nitrate, selenium, strontium, sulfate, and vanadium. Total TDS was reduced by 90% overall. What's interesting here is that Cloud actually performed better on a percentage basis when challenged with the more contaminated water source. A couple of weaker results worth mentioning from the second test: boron was reduced by just 27%, which is actually expected from reverse osmosis since boron slips through the RO membrane more easily than charged ions. No residential RO system handles boron well, which we saw over and over in the lab reports from many of these recent systems we've tested. Nitrate was reduced by 48%, which is lower than the 85 to 95% rejection rate we typically see from RO. This is likely due to feed water temperature and pressure being on the lower end of what's recommended for optimal RO performance during testing. In both tests, Cloud's built-in remineralization filter raised the post-filter pH from 8.4 to 9.7 in the first test, and from 8 to 8.7 in the second test. For some folks, that higher alkaline pH is actually a benefit. A lot of people pay good money for high pH bottled water. Cloud also eliminated 100% of chlorine in both tests, which I tested on site. Cloud RO is currently certified to NSF ANSI 58 for TDS reduction. That is a great start, but it's only certified for one of the contaminants Cloud claims to reduce on their product page, which lowers the certification subscore. They've told me they are currently pursuing additional certification for other claims, but this is currently in progress and not yet live at the time of recording. My on-site TDS meter showed feed water at 657 ppm, with a stable second draw reading of 68 ppm post-filtration. That's a TDS rejection of about 89.6%, which closely aligns with the lab data. But here's where it gets interesting. My TDS creep test on Cloud came in at 216 ppm, which is the difference between the first draw sample in the morning after letting it sit all night and the stable second draw reading. That's notably higher than every other tank-based system we've tested and closer to what we typically see with tankless systems. Now, I thought this was strange, so discussed it with the manufacturer, and they clarified that this actually isn't due to TDS creep at all. Rather, when a new Cloud system sits overnight, the purified water sitting in the remin filter becomes saturated with minerals from that filter, which is what causes that spike in TDS first thing in the morning. They said this should normalize after a few weeks of use. Now, if you appreciate this kind of data-driven testing and reviews, give this video a like to let me know I should keep testing RO systems like this. Also, I prioritize what I buy and test for future videos based on requests from you guys, so let me know in the comments which product I should test next. Cloud earned a perfect 10 in the design category. It has a premium build, uses NSF certified BPA-free food grade plastics, integrated sensors, an app for tracking, and a really thoughtful, modern layout that's a far cry from what you typically see with conventional under-sink ROs. It's certified for material safety thanks to its certification under NSF 58, which includes extraction testing. Cloud uses a permeate pump and the noise is intermittent. It only really makes noise when the pump kicks on, which is roughly every 10 seconds or so. When it's quiet, I measured around 29 decibels at 1 foot, which is barely audible and probably mostly background noise from the fridge. When the pump cycles on, you'll hear a brief spike, but it's still much quieter than any tankless system with the pump running. Filtration rate scored an 8.5. Cloud uses water pressure plus its integrated permeate pump to fill its 2.8 gallon holding tank, so you get instant access when you turn on the faucet, assuming the tank is full. As for flow rate testing, I measured 0.05 GPM at the 12-ounce draw, which is faster than most other conventional tank-based systems I've tested at this draw size, likely thanks to that permeate pump. Cloud claims a 1-to-1 pure to drain ratio, and that's basically what I measured in my real-world testing. That's significantly better than typical conventional under-sink ROs, which can waste anywhere from 3 to 10 gallons for every 1 gallon purified. Cloud's setup score is 7.5. It's an under-sink installation, so it's not as easy as a countertop unit. You've got the dedicated faucet, tank, the drain line, and a few quick connect connections to make. But Cloud's design is fairly minimalist. All the filters are in a single cassette with a detachable base. The water lines were clearly labeled, and the install was much easier than other under-sink systems I've tested. I had it installed and running in about 45 minutes, which is one of the faster installs of any under-sink RO I've tested. The initial break-in flush was also a lot faster than the other conventional ROs. Most of those took 6 to 8 hours at least, and some even longer. Cloud RO took just over 3 hours for 3 full tank fills and rinses, thanks again to that permeate pump. Maintenance scored a perfect 10. The system's app alerts you when the filters need to be replaced, and the filter changes are about as easy as it gets for an under-sink RO. Something else cool that I just found out about is that if you ever have an issue with your system, the Cloud tech support team can actually enable a support mode on your app so they can access your specific system's usage data and troubleshoot for you in real time. I'm not aware of any other company that offers this level of detail when it comes to tech support. Ongoing cost averages about 18 cents per gallon based on my calculations and assumed usage. And of course, ongoing cost will vary depending on your specific water quality and usage. The cool thing about Cloud RO is that their replacement logic takes both consumption and water quality into account when recommending replacements in the app. So unlike many others that are simply timer-based, Cloud is really only recommending replacements when the filters are actually exhausted based on real water quality and usage data. Cloud got a strong 9.2 in the company category with a strong 5-year warranty, free shipping on all US orders, and a 3-month satisfaction guarantee. Cloud RO is a solid choice if you want the convenience of an under-sink system with on-demand purified water and the modern feature set you typically only see in countertop or tankless units. The main downsides are the higher upfront cost and that elevated TDS creep I mentioned, which is something to be aware of after the system sits idle for a while. Coming in second place is the Waterdrop G3 P800 with an overall score of 9.21. This is the highest scoring tankless under-sink RO system I've tested. It's got a really fast water production rate, a modern high-tech design, and it eliminated most of the contaminants in my water in lab testing. Contaminant reduction came in at 9.28. In my lab testing with the optional remineralization filter installed, the G3 P800 eliminated all contaminants detected above the health guideline level, including fluoride, uranium, and 3 disinfection byproducts. It also completely removed barium, copper, selenium, molybdenum, and vanadium, and reduced strontium by 97% and total chromium by 88%. My on-site TDS reading of the feed water came in at 656 ppm, and the stable post-filter reading was 34 ppm without remin, or 43 ppm with remin, a TDS rejection of about 94.8%. This was reflected in the lab results as well, where we saw TDS reduced by 93% and 95% with and without remin respectively. And I was pleasantly surprised to find that TDS creep was just 33 ppm. The G3 P800 has the best TDS creep performance of any tankless undersink RO I've tested. That's a really big deal since tankless systems are inherently more susceptible to TDS creep than tank-based systems. Part of why TDS creep stays so low on the G3 is its automatic flushing cycles. The system runs 3 flush cycles, and I captured and measured the wastewater from each. A 20-second flush after every cumulative 2 hours of use, about 52 ounces. Another 20-second flush after a power outage, also around 52 ounces, and what Waterdrop calls a circular fresh water flush that runs 5 minutes after every use, and again after 12 hours of no use, about 28 ounces each time. To be fair, that's extra wastewater beyond the RO process itself, but it's why this system is able to keep TDS creep under control. The G3 P800 is IATMO certified to NSF standards 42, 53, and 58 for chlorine, PFOA, and PFOS, 2 common PFAS chemicals, TDS, fluoride, cadmium, hexavalent chromium, selenium, barium, and radium. Design scored a 9.7. It's a sleek, space-saving system made from polypropylene, and it comes with a lead-free smart faucet that has its own built-in TDS meter. You can compare the TDS reading at the faucet or the one on the body of the unit to confirm the filters are still working as they should. Its materials are certified for safety thanks to its NSF 58 cert, which includes extraction testing and a separate IATMO certification to NSF 372 for lead-free design. I measured the noise levels of the G3 P800 at 46.2 decibels at 1 foot and 43.6 decibels at 3 feet. That's louder than the conventional tank-based systems on this list, since tankless units rely on an internal electric pump, but it's still quieter than a convection oven, a standard dishwasher running, a microwave, or a range hood on its low setting. Filtration rate scored a perfect 10. The G3 P800 is a tankless system rated for up to 800 gallons per day, which is way more than any household actually needs, but in real life that translates into noticeably faster flow rate at the faucet. In my flow rate testing, the average time to fill 12 ounces was just 9.14 seconds, which works out to 0.62 gallons per minute, or about 887 gallons per day. That's actually faster than the manufacturer's claimed 800 GPD rating and is the fastest flow rate I've measured for any RO system to date. Waterdrop claims a 3-to-1 pure to drain ratio. In my testing at the smaller 12-ounce draw, the G3 produced about 8 ounces of wastewater for that 12 ounces of purified water, a pure to drain ratio of about 1.5 to 1. When I repeated the test at 64 ounces, the ratio improved to about 2.2 to 1, meaning recovery rate jumped to nearly 69%. This is one of the best efficiency ratios I've measured for any undersink RO. Just keep in mind that those automatic flush cycles I mentioned earlier add to your overall wastewater beyond what this efficiency ratio captures. Setup scored a 7. Total install time was about 2 hours from start to finish. Waterdrop has done a good job designing it to be as easy to install as possible, with all 3 filters contained in the main body of the unit. It included pipe cutting tool and tubing with markings showing how far they need to be inserted to be properly sealed. I noted 9 external leak points at the fittings. That's 9 places where the unit could potentially leak at any point during operation. The initial break-in flush was just 35 minutes, one of the shortest I've seen for any undersink RO, and much faster than the conventional models that take hours before they're ready for first use. Maintenance scored a perfect 10. You get a built-in filter change reminder, and ongoing cost is just 11 cents per gallon, or 13 cents per gallon with the Riemann filter. Just keep in mind that your actual cost per gallon will vary with your specific water quality and usage. I measured the G3 required 0.004 kilowatt hours of electricity to produce 1 gallon of filtered water, which is pretty typical for a tankless system with an internal pump. Based on the most recent US average electricity rate of 17.65 cents per kilowatt hour and an assumed average annual usage of 1,095 gallons of RO water, 3 gallons a day, your annual electricity cost works out to less than $1. Company scored an 8.65 with a 1-year warranty, free shipping to the lower 48, and a 30-day return policy. The G3 P800 is a strong choice if you want a tankless, under-sink RO system that saves space, produces water quickly, and has the certifications to back up its performance claims. The main drawback is that it doesn't include remineralization in the base configuration. You'll need to buy and install a separate inline Riemann filter if you want to add minerals back into the water. In third place is the Frizzlife PD600-TAM3, with an overall score of 8.94. This is a close contender to the Waterdrop G3 P800 as another tankless under-sink RO system, but at a more affordable price point. It might not have the G3's certifications, but it offered strong contaminant reduction with optional remineralization, simple, affordable maintenance, and a fast 600 gallon per day flow rate. Contaminant reduction scored a 9. In my lab testing, the PD600-TAM3 eliminated all 5 contaminants detected above the health guideline level, 3 disinfection byproducts, plus uranium and fluoride. It also reduced barium, chromium, copper, manganese, molybdenum, selenium, strontium sulfate, and vanadium by at least 90%. Where it fell short was nitrate, only reduced by 50%, and boron reduced by just 39%. I tested this unit with the optional remineralization filter installed, which raised the pH from 7.4 to 8.13, and the system also eliminated 100% of chlorine. On TDS, my feed water came in at 645 ppm with a stable second draw reading of 49 ppm with Riemann, a TDS rejection of about 93.8%. But here's the big one to note based on my new RO-specific testing. TDS creep was 434 ppm, which is the highest of any system I've tested. That means after the system sat idle overnight, that first draw had significantly elevated TDS. To be fair, all tankless ROs experience some level of TDS creep, but the PD600's was much higher than other tankless models I've tested, including the Waterdrop G3. So with this system, I definitely recommend running the faucet for 10 to 15 seconds to flush out the first draw before drinking or filling up containers. The PD600 does not currently hold any contaminant reduction performance certifications, despite some misleading certification info on their product page that includes the IATMO Platinum Seal logo and language suggesting the system is NSF certified. It's only certified to NSF 372 for lead-free design, not any performance claims. Design scored an 8.8. It's constructed from food-grade polypropylene with a digital display that gives you a real-time TDS reading and filter lifespan indicators, but the quarter-inch quick connect components feel cheaper and flimsier than what I've seen on other systems. That said, the shutoff valve is stainless steel rather than plastic, which I appreciated. It's certified to NSF ANSI 372 for lead-free design. The PD600 measured 48.4 decibels at 1 foot and 44.7 decibels at 3 feet, making it one of the loudest RO systems I've tested. Filtration rate scored a perfect 10. I measured an average flow rate of 0.44 gallons per minute at the 12-ounce draw, which converts to just over 639 gallons per day, in line with Frizzlife's 600 GPD rating. Frizzlife claims a 2-to-1 pure-to-drain ratio. In my testing at the 12-ounce draw, I measured a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning equal parts purified water and wastewater. When I repeated the test at 64 ounces, the ratio improved to about 1.5 to 1, which is closer to the manufacturer's claim. One thing worth noting on this system is that it also runs automatic flush cycles when the system sits idle, which adds about 1.2 gallons of additional wastewater per day, even if you barely use the unit. Setup scored a 7. Frizzlife claims the PD600-TAM3 takes less than 30 minutes to install, but in reality, it took me about 90 minutes from start to finish, 3 times the manufacturer's claim. I noted 10 leak points at the fittings. I also ran into a few small issues along the way. The gasket in the 3-way feed water valve fell out easily. The tubing isn't pre-cut or color-coded, and you have to measure and cut the specific length you need for each port. The initial break-in flush took about 20 minutes and used about 9 gallons of water, which is actually less than many similar systems. Maintenance scored a perfect 10. There are just 2 filters to replace, or 3 if you add the Riemann filter, and the filter lifespan tracker on the display removes the guesswork. Ongoing cost is just 12 cents per gallon based on my calculations, which is among the lowest on this list, though again, this can vary depending on your water quality and usage. As for energy usage, the PD600 measured 0.003 kilowatt hours per gallon, which works out to less than $1 per year in electricity. Company scored an 8.2 with a 1-year warranty, free shipping on US orders over $25, and a 30-day return policy. The Frizzlife PD600 is a strong choice if you want tankless RO performance at a more affordable price than the Waterdrop G3 P800. The 2 main things to be aware of are the high TDS creep, which means you'll want to run the faucet for a few seconds before drinking after the system has been sitting idle, and the lack of performance certifications. So if certifications are important to you, you'll want to go with the Waterdrop G3 instead. Rounding out this list at number 4 is the APEC ROES PH75 with an overall score of 8.87. This is the highest scoring conventional tank-based under-sink RO system I've tested after Cloud, and is also one of the more affordable systems on this list at about $270 up front. It might not have the high-tech features of a more modern system, but it eliminated most contaminants in my testing with certifications for TDS reduction, material safety, and lead-free design, all contributing to its overall score. Contaminant reduction scored a 9.28. In my lab testing, the ROES PH75 eliminated all 5 contaminants detected above the health guideline level, 3 disinfection byproducts, fluoride and uranium, along with copper, molybdenum, potassium, selenium, sulfate, and vanadium. It also greatly reduced barium by 98%, strontium by 97%, and chromium by 87%. As for TDS, my feed water came in at 647 ppm with a stable second draw reading of 44 ppm, a TDS rejection of about 93.2%. And TDS creep was just 5 ppm, which is essentially negligible. That's the lowest TDS creep of any system on this list, which is typical for a conventional tank-based RO since the tank buffers the initial water quality. I tested this with the included remineralization stage, which raised the pH from 7.59 to 8.77, and the system also eliminated 100% of chlorine. The ROES PH75 is WQA certified to NSF ANSI 58 for TDS reduction, which is great, but that's only a fraction of the contaminants APEC claims to reduce. Design scored a 9.7. It's made from certified plastics, the lead-free faucet has a chrome overlay, and the overall build feels sturdy and durable. It has WQA certifications to NSF 58 for material safety and NSF 372 for lead-free design. We measured 24.3 decibels at 1 foot and 23.9 decibels at 3 feet, making it the quietest system on this list. Honestly, my decibel meter app was probably just picking up background noise from the fridge, not necessarily noise from this system itself. It doesn't use a built-in pump, so there's almost nothing to hear. Filtration rate scored a 7.5. The ROES PH75 is rated for up to 75 gallons per day, but real production depends heavily on feed pressure and temperature. In my test conditions, 48 psi feed pressure and 60.4 degree water, I measured a flow rate of about 0.03 GPM at the 12-ounce draw, or about 43 gallons per day. As for efficiency ratio, APEC's AI chat tool listed a 1:3 pure to waste ratio, meaning 3 gallons drained for every 1 gallon purified. But in my real-world testing at the 12-ounce draw, I measured 1 to 10.6, making this the least efficient RO system I've tested by a mile. When I repeated the test at 64 ounces, the ratio improved to 1 to 5.1, which is much closer to the manufacturer's claim, but still high. So then I also tested the system with an upstream booster pump to see how much increased pressure would change things. With the pump installed, the recovery rate jumped from 16% to nearly 21%, a 26% improvement, and flow rate boosted by about 30 gallons per day. The pump used about 0.004 kilowatt hours per gallon, which is similar to what I've measured for tankless systems with built-in pumps. So if your feed water pressure is below 50 psi like mine, a booster pump can make a meaningful difference for any conventional under-sink RO. I'll link to the Aquatech booster pump that I used in the description. Setup scored a 7. Total install took about 90 minutes and a few features pulled the score down. The filters and housings aren't color-coded. The faucet doesn't include a quick mount nut, which extended the install time. I noted 19 leak points at the fittings, and the system actually did leak from the drain line at the manufacturer-installed membrane drain connection during my testing, something I was able to fix with a blue locking clip. After installation, the initial break-in flush took 3 hours to flush 1 tank's worth of water, and another 2 to 3 hours for the tank to refill. That's longer than the tankless systems on this list, but it's actually quicker than some other conventional ROs. The Express Water RO5DX, for example, requires 3 full tank flushes before the water is usable. Maintenance scored a 9.25. There's no display screen with filter change alerts, so you'll need to set your own calendar reminders. Ongoing cost of replacing the filters comes out to about 12 cents per gallon, depending on your specific water quality and usage. Company scored an 8.35 with a 1-year limited warranty, free shipping in the contiguous US, and a 30-day return policy. The APEC ROES PH75 is a good option if you want a conventional, affordable, tank-based RO with included remineralization and good third-party certifications, and you don't mind the slower flow rate and longer install time. And if your feed water pressure is on the lower side like mine, definitely consider pairing it with a booster pump because it really does make a big difference. Now, those are the 4 highest scoring products based on the data, but they're not the only under-sink RO systems I've tested. Here are a handful of other systems I've tested over the last few months that didn't quite make the cut, and the specific reasons why each one fell short. The AquaTrue under sink would likely have made this list, but my lab sample broke in transit, so I have to reinstall and retest it. I didn't want to wait another month or so to get this video out since it's already behind schedule. It holds the same extensive certifications as the AquaTrue Classic countertop unit that uses the same filter elements, so I expect it to perform well in the contaminant reduction category once I retest it. However, it does have lower scores than the countertop models, and the filtration rate setup, and maintenance categories, which will result in a lower overall score than their countertop models. The Aquasana Smart Flow had a lower contaminant reduction score in my lab testing. Trace chloromethane was detected in the filtered water, though it was below the health guideline level. This still negatively affected its score. To be fair, the Smart Flow is extensively performance certified, so it could be a strong pick depending on what you're looking for. The iSpring RCC7 had arsenic and vanadium detected above the health guideline level in my filtered water sample. That's surprising since the system is officially NSF certified and extraction testing should catch that type of thing. One theory I have is that the remineralization media may have changed and not undergone updated extraction testing, but again, that's just speculation. Either way, those two results significantly lowered its contaminant reduction score, which ended up excluding it from this list. The Express Water RO5DX delivered overall decent performance, but it also had a lower score in the contaminant reduction category than others. The US Water American RO had aluminum and antimony detected above the health guideline level in the filtered water, which significantly hurt its contaminant reduction score. The Kind Water Pro RO actually performed well in my testing and is certified for a few things, but none of the contaminants it's certified for are listed on the product page. Instead, the product page shows a long list of organic contaminants that activated carbon removes, but the system isn't actually certified for any of those. That mismatch between the marketing claims and the actual certifications dropped its certification subscore and thus overall score. So at the end of the day, if you want the highest scoring and best reverse osmosis system with NSF 58 certification, modern features, on-demand water, app tracking and support, and built-in remineralization, pick Cloud RO. If you want a tankless under sink unit with the fastest water production, the lowest TDS creep of any tankless I've tested, and more certifications, pick the Waterdrop G3 P800. If you want tankless under sink RO performance at a more affordable price, pick the Frizzlife PD600-TAM3. Just be ready to flush the faucet for a few seconds after the system sits idle. And if you want a conventional, affordable tank-based RO with included remineralization and solid third-party certifications, pick the APEC ROES PH75. Links to all the products I talked about are down in the description. And stick around for the next videos for a deeper dive into the top products on this list. Click or tap to keep watching.